Do you bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen. Here we go! Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate. We love to argue. You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
And a good Victory Monday, Birds fans. Appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365 with your Mac and Mac guys. Johnny Mac, they may make you sweat. They may give you heart palpitations. But the Philadelphia Eagles know how to win games. Be they close, heart-stopping, gut-wrenching, call them whatever you want. But they flat out know how to win games, and that's why they're the only 8-1 team in the National Football League right now.
In consecutive weeks, looks like my internet's a little spotty today, so I'm going to try to restart it. Reminds me of the Eagles' pass coverage, a little bit spotty, but you're right. They find ways to win games. I mean, that one, I'm usually not too concerned with this team, but that one, when it was 1st and 5, I believe, from the 6-yard line with 27 seconds left, he's got 4 chances in the game because the Eagles can't cover CeeDee Lamb. And
we might have to.
Completion, throw short of the end zone. Dak Prescott, you're a veteran. That's what happens in that situation. That one was a little concerning, but and I always go back to Denny Green. Denny Green told me winning, proving is a habit. Most teams falter in that situation. They found a way to win the game.
They surely did, and there's a lot of things we're going to give the Eagles credit for today. But as far as I'm concerned, for what we do, what Sports Talk Radio is, couldn't be a more perfect outcome. The Eagles win the game, but yet there are a whole bunch of questions about this team, where it's at, how they played, certain areas of concern. Can't have a better result because more than anything, you want to have a W at the end of the game. You want the Eagles to be 8-1 and have the best record in the NFL. But if they're just crushing people, then it's borderline boring. This team is anything but boring, Johnny Mac. They keep you tuned the entire time, both screaming and yelling in celebration, but also screaming and yelling in wondering what the heck they're doing out there. Couldn't have been a more perfect result for a fan base that likes to, or at least I think they do, likes to at least pick apart certain nuances of the team. They were clutch. They got the clutch gene. They've had it now for a while, and this group, I think, has it in spades. You get BG with the 2 late sacks, Josh Sweat with the late sack, a big tackle at the 2-yard line to end the game. A lot of clutch plays, but also issues throughout the game. And you kind of touched on one of them about CeeDee Lamb. And you and I talked about this last week leading up to the game. I think you said they need to make a decision at the slot corner because they keep trotting guys out there on a week in, week out basis. You don't know who's out there. You got the answer? If you're suggesting they need to make a call and stick with somebody, anyone on the roster right now you got baked in? Bradley Roby's got to be actually able to take the field, right?
No. Well, Bradley Roby. Yeah. And he tweeted last night after the win, he will be back after the bye. So from his mentality, he's going to be back. And I do think that'll help and at least settle things down a bit. We have to see how much is left in the tank, but I do know he knows how to play. And right now they don't know. They don't really have anybody who knows how to play slot corner. I mean, it's been attrition. Obviously, you lose Avonte Maddox, who's one of the best in football. You lose his backup, Zach McPherson, in the preseason, on and on and on. Mario Goodrich can hold up. Now you're playing guys. Sidney Brown's a safety. Eli Ricks is an outside corner. And you're playing guys who don't even really know these are the position. You're trying to get through it. And they get through it, and they find ways to win games. But I don't know if this possible, Jody, when somebody has 16 targets, but they didn't get the ball to CD Lamb enough. They did not get the ball to him enough. They didn't throw the ball to him enough. Look, when nobody, and that's what the Eagles do so well. When nobody's, don't just go away from it because you feel like, oh, we better mix this up. No, don't mix it up. They couldn't do a damn thing with CD Lamb. And the Cowboys bailed them out and look at other directions. There was a big fourth down play. They're throwing it to Jalen Tolbert against, I think it was Bradbury. What? It makes no sense to me. But you fall into this mentality. Oh, we can't just keep doing the same thing. Why the hell not? I think the Cowboys bailed the Eagles a number of decisions. The court bailed them out. Certain situations. Bradley Roby can't get. I mean, they need somebody who understands.
Yeah, I need you to look something up for me. How many snaps did Bradley Roby actually play before he went down? I know he played in that Ram game, and it kind of stood out because in the first couple possessions, the Rams threw the ball to Cooper Kupp wherever the hell they wanted. And in the second half, when Roby played more, Cooper Kupp did less. But I'd really like to know how many snaps he played, because you're right. The Eagles, John McMullen, Jerry McDonough, putting a lot of eggs in a basket that showed up, made a handful of plays maybe, and then went out with an injury and hasn't been back since. Granted, I don't know that he could be worse than Eli Ricks or Sidney Brown or Mario Goodrich in the slot right now. But I don't know how much better he's going to be either, because we don't really even know. We know that he's had a nice career and he's played in the slot before, but in an Eagle uniform, he hasn't done a whole hell of a lot yet. And they're banking on him to do a lot just because he's not who the other struggling corners in the slot are for the Philadelphia Eagles right now. That's a little scary, John.
It is scary. I'm not by any stretch of imagination trying to say he's the answer. I have no idea he's the answer. You're right, barely played. He not training camp. He went the mercenary market routes. But knows how to play the position. I don't know if he has left, but I know he understands play the position. He's before at a significant level. He's played a lot of NFL snaps at the position. Right now, I really don't have anybody who knows how to play the position. That to me is the biggest concern. From that standpoint, at least as a defensive coordinator, Sean Desai, you understand you don't have to worry about a guy who's not going to understand his role on a particular play or his responsibility on a particular play. That alone is going to be a bit better. Then you have to decide, how much left. That I can't answer. He might be like my internet this month. I'm trying to limp along to the break. He might have nothing left. So excited to see Rashad. I don't know if anything left. I mean, I don't know if Bradley Roby has anything left, but I know he understands how to play the position. And right now, they're rolling out guys who are out of position just because they don't have anybody else to play the position.
Yeah, like I said last week, I would not have minded if Howie Roseman decided to go get Rasul Douglas. I don't care how tall he is. He knows how to play the position. If we're hanging our hat on Bradley Rowe because he knows how to play the position, so does a guy like Rasul Douglas, who played it very well the last couple of years in Green Bay. So the Eagles,
But,
yes. I think Johnny wanted to say something, but his internet's going in and out.
I'm happy.
Why don't we take we'll take an early we'll take an early break here. We'll let Johnny restart his computer, hopefully upgrade his connection, and our first guest should be joining us in about 10 minutes. Just Jeff Kerr from CBSSports.com, who always joins us early on Mondays, good enough to do so again. So we'll take our first time out here on Birds 365. Hopefully be able to hear what Johnny Mack has got to say going forward. Stick around here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed the most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, we prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got Mac and Mac here on Birds 365. Jeff Kerr's going to join us in a couple minutes. When he jumps in, we'll punch him up. Hopefully, Johnny Mac's connection will stick with us more so than in segment number one. J Mac, again, we want to emphasize the positive today. Eagles won the game. They find a way to win week in and week out. They overcome the other teams, some of their own mistakes, but at the end of 60 minutes, and it took every single second of all 60 minutes for this one to be determined with CeeDee Lamb being tackled at the 3-yard line. Yeah, they find a way to win the game, and that is the most important thing, as Jalen Hurts like to say, keep the main thing, and that's the Eagles winning. You do need to talk about the entire game, and Eagles took a shot yesterday. Dallas Goedert fracture in his forearm. He's going to be out for a period of time to be determined. Reading, seeing, hearing people report IR is a possibility, which means at least 4 weeks. He gets the bye week. The bye week comes at a opportune time for the Eagles with Goddard being out. What kind of faith you got in the backup Eagle tight ends to be able to step up, Johnny Mack?
Well, we saw it last season for 5 games when Dallas broke the glenoid bone in his shoulder.
What'd you just say?
Exactly, glenoid bone in his shoulder. The first indications I got are 4 to 6 weeks, which would be similar to the time he lost last season. That seems awfully optimistic to me with a broken form. But what do I know? I'm not a doctor.
Isn't that something you can do the whole?
I guess.
Hassan Reddick wrap it up and make it look. Now he kind of needs that to be able to catch the ball. That could be handicapping his potential to play the position the way he's used to playing and the way it would be optimum to play it. But I think get back out there and just not the same.
I guess, but do you want to risk it? And part of the reason why Dallas got hurt, I mean, he's won Kyle Brandt's angry runner thing, whatever he calls it, twice this year, and he was doing it again, and that's how he got hurt with his angry runs. So he plays such a physical brand of football. I don't know. It seems a little bit optimistic. Hopefully he can get back. Clearly he's going to miss some time. At least 4 games. I do think they'll put him on injured reserve. And we already saw it happen last year. Jack Stoll stepped up a little bit. Grant Calcaterra should be back. He was working already last week from his concussion. Then you have Albert O. So you have a little bit more. Maybe he can help from the pass catching aspect. But clearly, I mean, you're not going to be able to replace Dallas Goedert. They persevered without him last year. They weren't the same offensively. Maybe they got to get Julio Jones more involved and go about it a different way. He's a big body. Maybe get him more involved in the pass catching instead of AJ, Devontae, Dallas. Maybe it's AJ, Devontae, Julio. And we'll see how much he has left in the tank. A lot of left in the tank talk with Bradley Roby, veteran players. But that's what happens. I mean, with a Super Bowl team, you want these veteran guys who know how to play, and maybe they do have something left in the tank. Admittedly, we haven't seen it yet. So, but it's got to be better. That's how, in the case of Dallas, in the case of Bradley, it's got to be better. In the case of Dallas, it's not going to be better, period.
No shot. The backups are going to be able to perform like Dallas Goedert. But can they give them anything is the question at this point. And yet, Julio Jones can be more a part of the attack going forward. But the Eagles do what they do. And they're not going to go 4 wide receiver set all game long and just give up the tight end position. And I would suggest that's another thing that did bother me about yesterday's game. Again, they won. Most importantly, they won. They did not dominate on the offensive line the way they usually do. Specific those last couple of drives where you and I have given them uber credit for being able to run as good a 4-minute offense as there is in the National Football League. They get the ball back. The other team knows they're running. The other team can't stop them. They run the clock. They win the game, and they walk off the field victorious. Not 1, but 2 chances to do that yesterday, and couldn't win the mano-a-mano battle up front to just be able to run out the clock. The last 2 were sans Dallas Goedert, and maybe that's something we need to factor into the equation as to how much Goddard's going to be missed. The fact that he is a major addition to that offensive line when the Eagles are running the football. They just didn't look as good doing it late in the game, Johnny Mack, as they usually do.
No, they didn't. And, this is one where be careful what you wish for, because they were so good in the third quarter. Touchdown. They really, dominated the entire third quarter. They had the football basically the entire third quarter. And they went up by 2 scores, and they tried to, run the game out. We always talk about run-pass ratio. Well, the run-pass ratio was pretty good. It was a heavy run yesterday, but be careful what you wish for, because you had that 2-score lead and they're trying to run out the game against a very good front. And I keep saying Jalen Hurts is not 100%, obviously. When it comes to running the football, he's doing a tremendous job passing the football. Some great throws yesterday, especially the touchdown to Devontae Smith, which is just a perfect throw and a tremendous catch as well. Number of those layered throws throughout the game, doing a tremendous job from the pocket, but he's not healthy. And when you take away his ability to threaten the defense and people aren't as concerned, I do not think this, even with the offensive line is still great. I do not think the Eagles are a good running team, because they do not have running backs where you can just simply turn your back, hand the football, and they're going to be effective. They do not have Earl Campbell. They don't have Derrick Henry. Insert name, even Christian McCaffrey, a different type of running back. They don't have that. I'm sorry. They don't. And people are starting to recognize it. They need the +1 to be effective in the running game, and they need the quarterback to get healthy. And that Jalen Hurts said selfishly, the bye is coming at a very good time for him, because hopefully he can get back to close to 100% and bring that back to the Eagles offense, because they're going to need it without Dallas Goedert. They're going to need it.
Agree wholeheartedly with that. Eagles like to run RPOs, but the keep it option just doesn't play. It's hand it to the running back, not hand it to the running back and throw, not hand it to the running back and the quarterback runs it himself. You take 1/3 of those out, all of a sudden those options start to shrink pretty quickly. And you're right. I don't think the opponent right now, whoever it is, last couple of weeks, has any fear of Jalen Hurts keeping the ball and trying to make a play with his legs. He's just not. And he played a great game yesterday. That, like you said, the pass to Smith was something spectacular. But without him as part of the offense with the threat of running it, you're right, it's just not the same Eagle offense. All right, Kerr and McDonald here. McMullen and McDonald here. Let's add Jeff Kerr into the mix. He of CBSSports.com joins us early on Mondays. He was down at the Eagles game with Johnny Mack, hanging out in the press box yesterday. Last play of the game. Back to pass. Dak Prescott completes. Will they or won't they tackle him in the field of play? They get him down at the 2-yard line, Jeff Kerr. What were you doing? Were you nervously sitting? Now you can't scream and yell in the press box.
Well,
go ahead.
First thing I was thinking of, Jody Mack. This guy will do anything not to throw an interception. This is what I get tired of with the Cowboys. Dak was the best player on the field yesterday. But
I disagree with that, Jeff. Right off the bat, I disagree with that. I disagree with that.
Dak?
Yeah. I look, he is a veteran quarterback. They have the ball 1st and 5 at the Eagles 6.
And false start, or was that the delay of game? I can't remember.
They made so many
mistakes.
The false start was first. That's not necessarily Dak's fault. You don't know what goes on, but the false start was first. Then he takes a sack, and not only a sack, it was a great pass rush by Josh Sweat, but that's an 11-yard sack, which that tells me, well, the foot ain't hitting the ground. If he's losing 11 yards, I have to rewatch the game. Obviously, I haven't had a chance to rewatch the game. But you have to understand that situation. Well,
there's a lot of situations he didn't understand. Like BG even explained it last night at his locker. He couldn't believe he stepped out of balance on the 2-point conversion. Yeah. I'm like, you had old, and I'm using Fletcher Cox's words here, old ass BG beat, and you step out of balance.
Yeah.
I can't believe this team is the worst situational football team I've ever seen. From you said, John, the sack to stepping out back to Luke
and the delay of game.
Yeah, and the delay of game.
You're a veteran quarterback. I don't expect that from a rookie. And they have a good play clock at Lincoln Financial Field. Some of these stadiums are a little bit hinky. It's right in front of your face.
And then
it's unacceptable for a veteran quarterback. And then Jody was saying, what were you doing? You were cheering when he throws it short of the end zone because CD Lamb would have had to break in 4 tackles to get in the end zone.
Yeah, well,
that's a bad throw.
Yeah, so this is what I thought when he threw it. I'm like, why are you throwing it there? 2, did CD Lamb think like someone was going to be behind him, the hook and ladder? Like, I just don't know what they were doing. I didn't even realize Sidney Brown was the one who got the fumble or forced the fumble. I'm just like, okay, game over. Like, they're a dumb football team. They're just a dumb football team. They do it every single year. I get sick and tired of people saying to me, this team's a Super Bowl contender. This team is this. This team is that. Beat somebody. That's all I'm saying. You're 0-2 against the Eagles and 49ers. It is, and you find ways to lose every single time.
I'm disappointed. I am disappointed, guys, in Dak Prescott. You go back to the playoff game where he tried to spot the ball himself. Not understanding
you got to know that, Dak.
How long have you been playing this position in this league?
You know what, John? You know what my issue with Dak is? And again, it's the Cowboys trying to stay away from the Eagles' distraction. Even Micah Parsons said, "What does Dak do? Oh, pour honey on me." You know, like, come on, man. Like, know your element.
That stuff I don't care about. I mean,
but that's what losing people do. Losing quarterbacks.
Well,
do
no,
look
at it from BG. Nobody talks more trash than BG.
But
I have
BG
no
does
problem
it
with that.
after the fact, though. He did.
No, BG does it from the coin toss, man. I mean, he's talking crap from the coin toss, and I have no problem with it. He generally has backed it up throughout his career. That kind of stuff doesn't bother me. But when I can't say it enough. When you're a veteran quarterback and you don't understand situational football, it drives me insane. It drives me insane. If I were a coach, that's the thing that would drive me the most insane.
Well, Mike McCarthy is also one of the worst situational coaches ever, too. I don't think that guy knew how much time he actually had on the clock.
I find it very hard to believe that Mike McCarthy is not teaching Dak Prescott to look at the play clock and not take delay.
I think Aaron Rodgers bailed that guy out a lot of times over the years.
And that was one of my big questions on the Cowboys coming into the year. How do we know if Mike McCarthy can call plays? I had no idea, and I would say that he's been marginal at best this year. But John's right about Dak yesterday because, and we've been down this road before, nothing, and I mean nothing, annoys me more than when they throw the ball short of where they should throw the ball. Johnny and I went back and forth last year about Kirk Cousins in a playoff game of the Giants. You can't throw the ball short of the sticks on 4th down. You can't. You can't bank on someone breaking a tackle and getting the first down or the touchdown. And that's what Dak did yesterday with CD Lamb. You can't throw it in the middle of the field and think he's going to be able to beat 4 Eagle players to get into the end zone. You have to throw the ball into the end zone there, the same way Cousins had to throw it past the stick later. Nothing bothers me more. Talk about situational awareness. The quarterback's got to know, the receiver's got to know. If the receiver isn't past the area that he's got to pick up to extend the game, you can't throw him the ball. I don't care how open he is. That's just dumb football.
The Cowboys outgained the Eagles 163-14 in the 4th quarter yesterday. They had 3 possessions inside the 30 and did not score once. That is losing football. Bottom line. That is why the Eagles are the Eagles and the Cowboys are the Cowboys. And
that's where I say 1st and 5 at the 6-yard line with 27 seconds
and
left.
You didn't score. Nothing.
And they weren't, and they had CD Lamb, who the Eagles didn't cover all afternoon. And they just went backwards from 6 to 11, from 11 to 22, from 22 to 27. What is, I mean, yeah, this is one where typically I look at, a lot of Eagles fans, one of the first comments we got this morning in the chat, I saw, oh, they're terrible. They're the worst team. They're a mirage. No, typically they win games and they win games you're pretty comfortable. Here's one where I think the stupidity of the Dallas Cowboys bailed them out a little bit. I really believe
but it's like you said, John, they have a history of doing this from the 49ers 2 years ago to now. they just find ways to lose games against good teams, whether they're getting blown out or whether they're making mistakes. I kept saying in my head, I kept putting in my head about 4 or 5 times yesterday, this is going to be the signature win for the Dallas Cowboys, and I got to shut my mouth. Nope. Didn't happen. They still find ways to lose. It's incredible how they were able to blow this football game. Everybody goes, the Eagles blew it. I'm like, they didn't blow it. Dallas did. The win was there for the Cowboys to steal a division win on the road when you were getting outplayed through 3 quarters, and you clearly outplayed the Eagles in the 4th, and you still didn't win.
But I do want to give a couple Eagles credit here as far as closing goes. Brandon Graham, Mr. Trash Talker himself, back-to-back plays, 1 clean sack, 1 shared sack for him to come up that big. You got to give him some credit. It's not just dumb Dak holding on to the football too long. No, BJ made good reads, good plays, good dip unders on both of those plays. And then Josh Sweat with the biggest sack of the game, except Josh. I know you talk about football awareness, situational awareness. Can't go celebrating when the clock is running and you're running over to the sidelines to do the swim move after you get the sack. Now, I know you want to celebrate. You want to get into the fair. Can't be doing that. You got to get up and get ready for the next play. Did dodge a little bit of a bullet there, but hey, the Eagles defense did come up big in both of those 2 spots. It wasn't all just Dak choking. The Eagles defense got to get some credit for those 2 plays.
Well, Josh is great. I mean, I've been talking about Josh Sweat all year. He might be the most underrated edge rusher in football. And yeah, Brandon came up big in a big spot. And you know, the only and that was a great rush, the Sweat rush. And I'm not even, but when I see that number 11, that tells me, and that's how much Dak Prescott lost on the play. That tells me he had a chance to get the football out. If it's 7, maybe, you know, Jody brings up the Kirk Cousins play, and he's right. Kirk Cousins should have thrown it to the sticks in the playoffs. But also Derek Lawrence bulldozed the offensive lineman. It was on him immediately. This is a little bit different. When you're 11 yards, that means you have a little bit of time to understand the situation.
And remember, Dak was running on that too. He was trying to do something. It's I don't know with this. By the way, can we give a shout out to Zach Cunningham? I actually thought he played the decent.
Oh, he played tremendously, Zach Cunningham. Nakobe Dean, we didn't mention, injured again. Did not play well, I don't think, during the game. Zach Cunningham was tremendous. I thought he had a great game. I can't wait to see the PFF grades and see what they gave Zach Cunningham, because I'm with you, Jeff. I thought from the naked eye, he played a really good game. You could argue he was certainly, I don't even think he was the Eagles' best back 7 player in that game. And there weren't a lot of great back 7 players in the game, but he was the best.
I took a look at the early coverage numbers for the secondary last night. I was actually kind of, I shouldn't say shocked, because I didn't see him give up that many big plays. He gave a lot of completions, but Darius Slay only gave up 67 passing yards last night.
Well, Slay's, yeah. I mean, at the end of the game, they stopped with the nonsense with the Ricks and Sidney Brown on CD Lamb, and they were putting Darius Slay on CD Lamb. And it's, look, that's a really good player. Nick was talking about it after the game, CD Lamb. He's having a great season. He's really difficult to deal with. But, you know, with anything, I said, I don't know if I ever said, and I told Jody, and I'll tell you, Jeff, they targeted him 16 times, and I don't think it was enough.
Yeah, I said that to answer to checkout last time. Like, they probably should have targeted him 26 times.
Yeah.
I would just kept throwing it to him. He was open all night.
Yeah.
So, but they had one other player who was a key contributor. And talking about breaking down the film, I'd really like to know. They made the Cowboy tight end look like Jay Novak.
Yeah, he had a good game as well. Yeah.
And it seemed like they just found the perfect seam between the linebacker and the safety. And that's where it comes down to communication. When you're passing off, the linebacker has them off the line of scrimmage. Safety's got to pick them up thereafter. They seem to just drill right into that middle spot. And I couldn't say afterwards, That's on N'Kobe Dean did, and then Morrow didn't get him covered. Blankenship didn't come up and make the play. I don't know who it was, but they were making Ferguson look like he could be an all-pro. That was another guy I questioned coming into the season. I thought losing Dalton Schultz was going to be a big loss for him. Oh, by the way, watch Dalton Schultz go nuts earlier in the day catching balls from CeeDee Lamb. But Ferguson, if they weren't throwing it to CeeDee Lamb, they were throwing it to Ferguson, and they were getting results. It wasn't like they weren't getting plays out of their other wide receivers. Though we only had one. He was the tight end, and I'd love to know who came up small in the coverage of Ferguson, because he burnt them pretty good too.
I'll tell you what, I was talking to Eli Ricks after the game, just about CeeDee Lamb, and I'll give the kid credit. His confidence has not been shaken by that. He goes, I learned a lot just from watching CeeDee Lamb. And I actually asked him about the double movie because he just flat out beat me. He said he's CeeDee Lamb, and I got a lot of work to do. So it's, it's clear that these young guys are learning by trial by fire. I feel bad for guys like Eli Ricks right now, and Sidney Brown, Mario Goodrich when he was playing. They're in situations they shouldn't be at this point. Like, guys are just they need Bradley Roby back.
Yeah. And they're going to get him. Bradley tweeted he's going to be back, so he's excited. He's going to be back after the bye. Brandon Cooks, he played 58 snaps. I didn't even know he was on the field.
Did he even catch a pass? Was that pass intended?
I think he caught one.
I think he for not much of a gain either.
Yeah. I didn't even know he was on the field. I sit next to Groats at the game, so it's really difficult for me. But I asked him at one point, is Cooks hurt? He's on the field every play, and I said, I didn't even know he was on the field.
John, do you even know what number he wears?
Single digits, right?
Yes. Jody's close.
Yeah.
Number 3.
3. I knew it was single digits. I couldn't remember exactly what it was.
Jalen Tolbert made a couple plays. Michael Gallup has got nothing left. There's a guy, you never know, because there's a guy who looked like he was going to be a really good player towards the ACL, and he's just not the same. So you never know, even with things that we take for granted. We say, oh, he'll be back from an ACL and he'll be fine. He's not fine. He's not the same guy. They don't have that second receiver, so that's a problem for them. But as Jody pointed out, Ferguson had a really nice game. He looks like he's turning into a pretty good player. But, so much of this game, you talk about the inches, the throw to the other tight end, Schoonmaker, whatever his name is.
Oh, yeah.
Reed Blankenship made a tremendous play there. In 6 inches away from a touchdown on 4th and 1. And then you mentioned before, Jeff, the Dak Prescott running out of bounds. If that's a 2-point conversion, they can kick the field goal and go to overtime at the end of the game. Yeah, man. Al Pacino fighting for those inches any given Sunday.
Yeah, John, football is such an interesting game when it comes to scoring touchdowns. So your body doesn't have to cross the plane at all, but the ball doesn't. It's a touchdown.
Yeah.
But half his body is across.
Oh, yeah, he was it. Yeah, it looked to the naked eye, it looked like touchdown.
And that was on our side of the field. I'm like, oh, that's a touchdown. Then I look, I'm like, is it a touchdown? I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure how they were going to rule it, and then I looked, third look, I'm like, it's not a touchdown. So it's
all right. We got on Dak's case, and rightfully so. We got on the Cowboys' case for foolish penalties in that last drive. Eagles had 10 penalties in the game, and a couple of them came at very inopportune times.
Jody,
on the side of the field.
Jody, I'm glad you brought that up because, John, I wanted to hear your take on this too. What did you think of the Sam Reddick roughing the passer on Prescott?
There's bad roughing the passer calls. Again, I always say, Jody knows, he's probably sick of me saying this. I don't like the legislation either, but that's what it is. Yeah. And they call the game like they call the game. And I always say the people don't like the legislation. That's the
they blame the ref, but it's not the ref.
Yeah. They don't like the rule. And I don't like the rule either. But in today's game, it's probably roughing the passer.
I don't like how earlier in the game, and again, I didn't think it was a penalty when he did it, but when Michael Parsons slammed Hurts to the ground. I'm like, okay, it's not a big deal. But then a defensive player gets a penalty for pushing a quarterback. I'm like, come on, man. Like, just be consistent with it. That's all I ask.
It happens all over the league, though. It's not like they're picking on the Eagles.
No, they're not.
And when you see a week where, Aiden O'Connell starting and Jaron Hall starting and who else?
Clayton
Tune is
Josh Dobbs is leading the Vikings to victories.
Yeah.
By the way, they're making the playoffs with Josh Dobbs. I'm calling
that was a good story. Josh Dobbs didn't take one rep. Didn't even know the names of his receivers.
He was showing his cadence to offensive linemen on the sidelines, and they all looked at him like, wait, what?
Yeah. That's a good story. Josh Dobbs deserves a lot of credit. I think he'll be exposed in the coming weeks, but that's me.
I like him though. He's a guy. Titans called on him last year in week 17. Just off the street.
But I think that was his second win as a starter, so I wouldn't decry him as the next Brock Purdy just yet.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah, he did a nice job. He did a tremendous job. But the league doesn't want all these injured quarterbacks, so they're doing as much as possible to protect them because they want offense. Everything involves on offense, and that's the thing that they're throwing these illegal contact flags from the opposite side of the field. It has nothing to do with the play. That to me is the most frustrating.
Or listening
part.
to my fellow national cohorts during the game complain about the tush push was driving me insane. I almost felt like saying shut up. It's a football play.
The Cowboys announcers, Brad Sham, I think it's Brad Sham and Babe Laufenberg. It's out there.
Yeah.
They were calling for it. And by the way, good for Babe. It was Babe who said, well, we got to play him twice a year, so you got to get it banned. At least he's honest.
Yeah, he's not trying to hide behind.
Yeah.
But speaking of the tush push, and despite the fact that he's got a bum knee, Jalen continues to be able to get the first downs whenever necessary. And a tip of the cap to Nick, because he goes for it inside his own 40-yard line right off the bat to start the game. That's how much confidence he has in it.
That's ballsy, by the way.
It really was.
It is.
Yeah.
And I give Sirianni credit for that. But John and I was just touching on this before we punched you up, Jeff. Eagles scored 28 points, which was enough to win yesterday. But the fourth quarter, when they're looking to run out the clock, they just couldn't do it. If it was the offensive line not winning the mano-a-mano battle, or the fact that the Eagles, when they run an RPO, nobody believes Jalen Hurts is going to keep the football and run with it. And I know he's playing with a bum knee, but this is now the better part of 4 or 5 weeks. Even before we knew that his knee was hurt, he wasn't all that effective. How important is it for Jalen Hurts to get back to 100%? I don't want to. I don't need to see him run it the way he did at the beginning of last year. But he's got to run it better than he's running it right now, because that was a key element to the Eagles' offensive game when they were scoring 30-plus every single week at the beginning of last season. How much did they miss Jalen Hurts' ability to keep the football and run it?
They missed in the fourth quarter last night. I don't think they go 3 and out on 3 consecutive possessions that Jalen Hurts is 100% or close to it. With that bum knee, it really limited a lot. I still don't know what happened on the fumble. They credits or did AJ Brown hit him when they were? AJ Brown ran into Swift on the play. Yeah. That's why the Eagles don't use motion. But they're trying to get creative.
Same thing I said.
They run into each other. Run into each other.
Yeah, they're trying to get creative there, and I'm like, well, look, if they have Jalen, that's not a thing. And DeAndre Swift's more effective because of that. And I thought the running game was better last night with Tyler Steen in there, but it's still not what it should be. Rashad Penny only getting 2 snaps to me. I know they don't like him. I know they don't play him, but the guy had his yards per carry average on his first carry last night. Like I guess the Eagles don't like 6-yard runs. I don't.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, DeAndre Swift did not have a good game running the football. No. I don't know what he ended up, like 2 yards a carry.
I'll be honest, he hasn't been good. He hasn't been good since like week 4.
3, not good.
Yeah, not good. And that last drive was like they tried to run it. I think he had 1 yard, 2 yard fumble or something like that. Yeah, I mean, he's not, and that's what I said. He's a good player. I'm not saying he isn't a good player. He's a good player, but he's not the kind of guy you just turn around and hand him the football in the traditional way. He's not going to be effective in that manner, and that's where Jalen Hurts comes into it. Now, maybe Rashad Penny is, for whatever reason. I mean, the coaching staff sees him every day. They don't think he's should be on the field.
And they never give you a legitimate reason, on or off the record, why he's not playing.
Well, that's Nick's way. Nick's never going to bury a player. But you say a lot when you take them off the field. And Mario Goodrich, for instance, they took him off the field. And we're going to see. I think one of the most interesting stories going into the bye week, because I think Tyler Steen played pretty well.
I did too.
Did they move forward with Tyler Steen as the right guard, even when Cam Jurgens is ready to go? I think that's one of the more interesting stories, because that's where they want to go. And if he's ready, that's who they want to be their long-term right guard. Why wouldn't you keep him there? From my perspective,
I thought they wanted him to win the job in camp, but Cam never gave it up. And as we've seen this year, guys are losing their jobs due to injury. So
yeah,
why not Tyler Steen?
Times. Yeah, Kenny Gainwell lost his job because he got hurt in week 1, and then DeAndre had a big game.
Let me go back to the running back position, because I was thoroughly intrigued with the way things played out yesterday. During the week, the coach was asked about Kenny Gainwell, and he got defensive. I'm sorry, that's just the way I saw it. Throwing Kenny Gainwell into a comparison with A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. Oh, if every time somebody made a mistake, we pulled them out, we wouldn't have a quarterback. Or Jalen Hurts. No, that was just a foolish thing to say. But he was going to bat for Kenny Gainwell, the fact that the Eagles continue to seem to have faith in him. Yesterday, Gainwell makes the big play early, the touchdown
the best run.
The leap into the end zone.
And then he disappears. We don't even
and then
see
he
him
gets
anymore.
2 more carries the rest of the game. Well, which is it, Coach? Do you trust and love Kenny Gainwell, or do you fear Kenny Gainwell? On a day when Swift's not running it well, why didn't they go to Kenny Gainwell in the second half of that game, Johnny Mac?
Yeah, well, shocking. Nick often contradicts himself. It's not the first time. I mean, you bring up the point, like, as you said, the comparison to AJ and Jalen was goofy, number one. But number two, saying, oh, he never sits people. He sits people all the time. He sat Mario Goodrich. I mean, what are you talking about?
The only thing Eagles haven't done to Mario Goodrich yet is put his locker with the rest of the practice squad guys.
Yeah.
Well,
they did for a while, and they moved some of the portable lockers out. They actually did move them inside, and then they moved them back outside. So, but anyway, he does it all the time. He contradicts himself. But, when you speak extemporaneously, occasionally you're going to do that. I'm a little surprised because that was such a good run early. Great kick out block by the birthday boy himself, Jason Kelsey, on that play as well. But it was a good play. And they were not running the football effectively.
By the way, Swift fumbled not once, twice.
Yeah.
Now he didn't lose the ball, but he fumbled twice. I thought, at some point, Kenny Gainwell's got to get the shot here. He never did.
I remember last year that's all people did was get on Miles Sanders for fumbling the football, and use that same energy for the hometown boy. It's all I'm saying.
Yeah, that might be one of those where as they go into the bye week and the self-scout, they might start saying, maybe we got to go. Kenny's got to get it a little bit more again. Maybe Rashad Penny's got to get it.
I was going to say, or maybe more. Jeff Kerr's boy, Rashad Penny gets a shot. He did get a 6-yard run yesterday.
I had people laughing in the press box when he had 6 yards on his first carry. I'm like, Rashad Penny just reached his career yards per carry average. They should bench him. They did.
Didn't quite go back to him. All right. So, question for both of you guys. And this is pure speculation at its finest. If Goddard's going to miss 2 games, 3 games, 4. Whatever Goddard's going to miss, it's going to be several games. We know that. Who's going to get the most? Is it just a given that it's Jack Stoll because of the experience, because of the trust factor? They don't have trust in Calcaterra. They surely don't have trust in Alberto. They got him out there yesterday only because Calcaterra wasn't capable of going. Is it Jack Stoll to the rescue? Do we have enough confidence in that, Eagle fans, to believe that, the receiving numbers are going to go down, but is Stoll's addition as a blocker going to be enough to justify him getting the snaps he's going to get?
I mean, John, it is Jack Stoll, right? I don't see.
Jalen loves Jack Stoll. That's part of it. Jalen Hurts loves Jack Stoll. Trust him. Yeah, I mean, we as I said, the Eagles went through it last year. We saw it. And it's going to be Jack, and they have to play a little bit differently because he's not obviously going to scare people as a receiver, but he does have good hands. He's going to catch it when you throw it to him. He's not going to do much with it. And then you would hope that one of the other two, Grant Calcaterra was a rookie last year. You would hope he and Alberto could give you a little bit more in the passing game and sort of piecemeal it like that. But Jack's going to get the most snaps. He's the most ready to play, and he doesn't make a lot of mistakes. And that's what you want when you sort of have to elevate a backup. But I do think they have to find, and I mentioned Julio Jones, Jeff, that might be a Julio Jones. Yeah. You go about it in a different way, but get that big body as a receiver, that third part of the passing game. I think they're more equipped this year than last year because they do have Julio and Albert. They didn't have really. It was like cross your fingers with Grant Calcaterra last year.
Yeah, I feel like Albert Okwuegbunam could play some sort of role here because he has played meaningful snaps before in the NFL with Denver. I mean, he's not going to be a focal point, but I agree with you, John. I think it is going to be a little more Julio. I think they run a lot more 11 than they normally do, so we'll probably see more of Julio. I talked to Quez Watkins on Friday. He said he's close.
Yeah, he's been out there working. I know people are going to get excited by that, but Quez looks close.
He almost was lost for the season, by the
way. Jody's good.
That's your boy, Jody?
The fear of Quez Watkins.
Yeah.
Well, you said every once in a while, speaking extemporaneously, the coach will say something that turns out to be questionable. There's nothing more questionable than the fear of Quez Watkins. The fear he puts in oppositions that get A.J. Brown open and Devontae Smith. Oh, come on, just move on from it.
Hey, they need his speed, Jody Mack. Nick tells you himself.
Gotta stretch the field. Got to stretch the field.
It's a joke. It's a joke. It just, I'm sorry.
Spacing is real. Spacing is real in the NFL.
I mean, ask the Cowboys. It worked pretty well for them last night until they couldn't space anymore.
Same in the NBA. So you got to space. You got to space the floor. You got to space the field in the NFL.
By the way, I am on my Nick Nurse hype.
Oh no, I do believe that.
Oh, I believe that too.
I think it's
Look
very
at Nick
important.
Nurse. Look at
Well,
Nick
then
Nurse,
why
my
don't
boy.
teams in the National Football League have sprinters? Why doesn't Devin Allen play? He's
Everybody's
faster than
got
Quez
sprinters.
Watkins.
Everybody's got speed guys.
Nobody could space the field more than Devin Allen if you're talking about pure speed going down the middle. Stop.
Well, that's. I mean, I'm not saying you don't have to be able to, and I'm not saying Devin's, a developmental project, a strange one, admittedly, because he's a little bit older. He's not a great route runner. You got to be able to do other things. But Jeff, I mean, receivers in the NFL
Quez does.
Receivers in the NFL are insanely fast. I mean, the slowest receivers are insanely fast for the average person. Stretching the field for every NFL team is a big, big deal. When you have corners who can just squat on routes because they're not concerned that guys can run by them.
The Cowboys do it with Cavante Turpin. He's not exactly the greatest receiver in the world, but when the Eagles paid attention when he was on the field.
I mean, when you make it easy for NFL corners, man, they are smothering When they're not scared, when people can run by them, that makes it really difficult for a quarterback. So I'm not saying Quez is a good player. I'm not saying he's doing it well, but I'm saying it's a very real thing in the NFL. Very real.
But you have to, if you're a defensive player, you have to be able to react to a guy going down the field. Unless you have no faith that he will catch the football if they throw it to him, and then it's irrelevant. Doesn't matter how quickly.
Well, you can't. The last thing you can do, and remember, we're 2 defensive coordinators in with Nick Sirianni. Explosive plays. You can't just say, that's where you and I depart dramatically, Jody. You can't just say, oh, so-and-so is not going to catch the ball, so I can let him run by me, because you're going to lose your job quickly if you approach it that way.
And by the way, Jody, I'm not afraid of Quez catching the football. I'm afraid of what he does after he catches the football.
That too.
Fumble it?
Fumble it, not get a first down, whatever floats your boat.
Both of those 2 things. All right, Jeff, before we let you run, Mr. NFC East, any chance the Giants put a call into you this week to see if you want to go up and throw the football around for them?
Well,
no. They got some guy. They got the guy from Goodfellas, Tommy DeVito. They don't need me. He might be better than Daniel Jones at this point. What a joke of an
Daniel
organization.
Jones is Otto Graham compared to Tommy DeVito. I mean, and I'm not. Boy, the New York Giants are the worst team in football. The worst team in football. The worst team in football.
You know what? I am going to pat myself right now. I said the Giants are going to be god-awful this year, and the Patriots are going to be god-awful. I'm tooting my horn. I know a bad football team when I see them.
And here's what I'd like to know about the Giants, and I only know behind closed doors decisions that were made and the like. Who was the one who went to slam their hand? We have to re-sign Daniel Jones. Somebody had to make that call. Somebody made that call for the Giants this offseason. And if it's Joe Shane, who they just hired and had a good year last year, and he could be questioned during this offseason as to whether he should retain his job.
I don't get the Giants' philosophy. Did they like losing 38-7 in the divisional round last year?
That was the worst thing that ever happened to him was winning that playoff game. The worst thing.
Because Kirk Cousins threw short of the sticks.
Well, no, Kirk Cousins
kept even that.
Kirk Cousins kept the Vikings in that game. The Vikings defense was so bad. Daniel Jones went up and down the field against Ed Donatell's defense. By the way, for predictions, I said to Jody before the season, the Vikings have no talent on defense outside Daniil Hunter. But I said they'd be top half of the league with Brian Flores. They're top half of the league with Brian Flores. They came into this week 13.
I actually said
I was shocked.
That was one of the best hires of the offseason. Brian Flores.
The guy does a tremendous job. Ed Donatel was the exact opposite. It was one of the worst defenses I've ever seen. He went up and down the field. The only reason they were in that game for Kirk Cousins to screw it up was because of Kirk Cousins, who had a phenomenal game. But them winning that football game convinced them that they were close. And it's like they forgot the next week when the Eagles pretty much just laughed at them en route to what was the score of that game?
38-7.
38-7. That was the worst thing that ever happened to the New York Giants. And they made a bunch of decisions off that bullshit win and set themselves back.
I actually think Washington is running a better organization right now. They blew it up. They just said, you know what? We're not winning with Montez Sweat. We're not winning with Chase Young. Here, the Bears, you want to give us a second-round pick for Montez Sweat? Have at it. We'll take it.
I think it's too early.
Give the Bears credit because Johnny always likes to take the Bears apart because, they made a couple questionable decisions. They got Sweat and they got him signed. That's commitment.
Adding
a good player and getting him locked
new
up
for them. Adding a good player is new for them.
Yeah, adding a good player, signing him, and getting a pass rusher.
Give a tip of the hat to the Bears. They don't always get it right, so when they very infrequently do, you got to give them credit for it.
Well, the reason I criticize the Bears so much is because nothing they do makes sense. That's all. It's like
trading for and signing Montez Sweat. Did that make sense to you, John?
No, not from their perspective. For the reason they're complete rebuilds. So now they're sort of They're sort of trying to.
Montez Sweat only has 1 year left.
They're trying to serve two masters.
My defense of the Bears was they have all this cap room in the offseason. And if you feel
got to spend it on something.
Yeah. And I feel like if you feel Montez Sweat is better than the 35th overall pick in the draft, at least that's
which I agree with. All right. I'll credit that. I agree with that.
Well, you're Washington. If you're who's their GM? I'm forgetting that. Jason Wright.
Ryan Poles.
Yeah. No, Washington's GM. Yeah, Washington. Jason Wright. Or you're running to the phone. Yeah. You're running to the phone. You're saying, oh look, you want to give us that for him for a player of expiring contract?
Here's the thing about Washington. Ron, essentially, he's the president, and Ron Rivera's essentially the GM with Herney. So they're running, and they're obviously gone. So I don't even know who's going to be running Washington. We're going to have to see what Josh Harris does. And I think Josh Harris will be better. Well, I don't think he's definitely going to be better.
Anybody is better than Daniel Snyder.
Yeah, right. So they're going to be better. I don't know how good, but they're going to be better. The Giants, I'm a little disappointed with because I thought Brian Daboll was a great hire. I think he's a good coach. I still think he's a good coach. I think Joe Shane made some good decisions in his first year, and then they just weren't honest with themselves. And I would say that's the most difficult thing to do for an NFL executive. You got to be honest with yourself. And they should have realized that that was a nice win on the road in the playoffs, but they made too much of it.
And by the way, their offensive line still sucks. In fact, it's even worse than it was last year, and it wasn't any good.
But it all starts with the quarterback, and that's the biggest mistake they made was giving Danny Dimes $40 million. I'm sorry. If that's the price of doing business in the NFL, Danny Dimes is. I get it. Everything's going up, and it never comes back down. In no world is Danny Dimes a $40
I'll give you one, Jody. With your Jets, I'd rather and keep in mind this guy has been the worst quarterback in the league the last 2 years statistically. I think I'd rather have Zach Wilson than Daniel Jones right now.
Yeah, at least you're not paying Zach.
Yeah, exactly. You're not paying Zach Wilson. You can just get rid of him.
That's a key difference. All right, Jeff Carr, always a pleasure, buddy. Thanks for jumping in. We will talk to you next Monday, even on the bye. Thanks for doing it today.
Yep, sounds great. Thank
you, Jeff Carr. Read him on CBSSports.com each and every single day. All right, McMullen, McDonald coming back. Hour number 2 coming your way. Chris Franklin, NJ.com, going to join us in less than 20 minutes. So stay here with Birds 365.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grossinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grossinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your greenhouse? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got your Mac guys, John McMullen, we on Bird 365 after a 28-23 win over the Dallas Cowboys. And John, you had to run out and go down to South Philly on Friday to get some off-the-record stuff from the coach. I don't think I said it here on Birds 365. I think I said it Thursday night. I was on Thursday night on WIP. My prediction on the game was 26-21 Eagles. And I said the Cowboys would score a fourth quarter touchdown to cut the deficit to 5, and they would miss a 2-point conversion. So they'd get to 21 in a rather funky way. But I had the Eagles winning by 5 and the Cowboys missing a 2-point conversion in the fourth quarter. That's pretty damn close. Now, I know it's 28-3.
I saw Kempsky was spiking the football. He predicted 28-23.
Nice. He got the score right on?
He got it correct. So, yeah, but that's nice. That's good enough, Jody. That's good enough.
And I know that some people were ticked off that I went 26-21 because it was right on the number. And 47 was the under-over. And I had them scoring 47 points combined between the two teams. But I did say I'd take the Eagles +3. I thought the odds makers were doing the Eagles a little disservice by only making them a 3-point choice. It means on a neutral
Cowboys always get a little bit more credit than they probably should.
And that's a wagering thing, that they take more money nationally than probably any other team. So I think they do slant it a little bit. So that factored in. But if you bet the Birds yesterday, you were a winner because of it. Don't complain. Don't question. Just cash your ticket, which is a good thing for the Philadelphia Eagles. Shame on me. I missed this yesterday. I never saw it. You might have tweeted it. All the other Eagle Beat guys. I just was in the middle of doing some things just as the game started yesterday. Do you have the inactives for yesterday handy?
I don't have it in front of me, but yeah, I can pull it up. Derek Barnett inactive. So
that was the reason I was asking the question. Is Barnett hurt?
No, healthy scratch.
Were they playing him the entire time to just like cross their fingers and play that someone would be foolish enough to give them a swap of rounds in the draft pick to be able to trade? And now that, because you've been telling me for weeks, maybe they actually like him. Maybe they actually think that he brings something to the table. First week after the trade deadline, DNP, coach's decision. I'm kind of doubting that logic, John, that the Eagles think that Derek Barnett is still bringing something to the table.
Well, I think that's understandable. I think I'm going to wait one more week for this reason. The Eagles were concerned, very concerned about the Cowboys' special teams for a couple reasons. One, John Possel's one of the best coordinators to do it. He's been that way for a number of years. And the other is Turpin, who is a tremendous return guy. And he did kick a 48-yard return, had a 48-yard kickoff return. So they elevated Ben Van Sumeren, which came out of nowhere. And for those who don't know Ben, very raw prospect, tremendously athletic, though. Athletic freak. He was one of the best testers in the combine. And they wanted his athleticism on the field and Patrick Johnson, who had been, because of numbers crunching, had been inactive for a couple of weeks early in the season, played more special team snaps than anybody. So if it wasn't the Cowboys, that's why I want to wait one more week. Now, if they come out of the bye and he's inactive again,
yeah. Do we fear the Kansas City Chiefs special teams the same way the Cowboys?
No. And that's sort of what I'm saying. So I want to wait and see if they make him inactive again, because the second part is, well, maybe I was saying maybe they finally want to get Nolan Smith, and they didn't get Nolan Smith more work.
No.
So that's sort of the reason I want to see what they do against Kansas City. Now, if he's inactive again against Kansas City, yeah, then they just benched him. But they were, and this is long before I knew they were going to make him inactive. They were very concerned about the Cowboys special teams, legitimate.
Yeah. Nolan Smith, all of 9 snaps again yesterday, with Derek Barnett out of the mix and Nolan Smith getting all of 9 sacks. Yeah, they're just not confident enough on Nolan Smith. The first round.
No, he's got to get stronger. And I was talking to BG after the game, and because his snaps are down. Sweat and Reddick are playing too much. Bottom line, but when you're in tough games, is back in the day, I always pointed out the Eagles would talk every year about we got to lighten Fletcher's load, and they never would, because they would get in the tight games. They weren't as dominant back then. They'd get in the tight games and they wouldn't be able to get them off the field. Similar, they're in a tight game. Well, you need Reddick on the field. You need Sweat on the field. And they played a ton, and they're not getting reps from Nolan. And BG is down. But I expect him to get more reps. They have him on a pitch count for a reason. They want him to be healthy for the stretch run. So I expect his to go up a little bit. But yeah, it'd be nice to get that fourth guy. They were looking for the fourth guy last year, and they couldn't find the fourth guy. And they can't find the fourth guy this year because Barnett's done nothing. Nolan Smith hasn't impressed them enough to get snaps, and Patrick Johnson, is more of a special teams guy. So, yeah, they're still looking. And you would hope that Nolan Smith would have seized that role, but it hasn't happened.
All right, so the Eagles get the bye week this week, John, and I'll already admit ahead of time. You talked earlier about we hate the legislation of the NFL. Don't hate the refs. We hate the legislation and the rules.
They think they hate the refs. But they hate the legislation.
They actually hate the legislation. Oh, I hate the collective bargaining agreement that the NFL, the greedy owners that they are, always, not sometimes, always, when they're in a collective bargaining agreement, they've got to give something to get a deal done. Oh, we'll just make you work less practice time. You guys don't actually have to work for the during the season. We'll give you days off. We'll limit the hours that you put in, what you can and can't do, number of padded practices. When in doubt, just don't ever give the players another penny, but give them time down, give them downtime and the like. The Philadelphia Eagles have their bye. If the collective bargaining agreement wasn't what it was in place, they could, and I know some people hate this phrase, but it kind of is on point, clean some things up. Because I know they're 8-1. They got the best record in the NFL. You watch that game from stem to stern yesterday. There's some things the Eagles could still clean up that they could be better on. And they won't get a chance to do that this week because the collective bargaining agreement won't allow them. They're off. Did they not come back till Tuesday of next week, John?
They're probably not coming back. Remember, the Kansas City game's Monday Night Football, so they're probably coming back a day later. They'll be in there this week for a little bit. They have to get the weekend off. I think it's 4 consecutive days they have to get out, and it's got to be weekend. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Monday most likely for the Eagles. But yeah, I mean, it's just the rules, and you got to deal with it. And you know, because I saw a New York guy go nuts because Zach Wilson went on vacation with his rather attractive girlfriend, and he should be working. He can't work. It's collectively bargained. Everybody, it's part. And you know, for the Eagles, and Jalen Hurts said it yesterday. Selfishly, it's coming at the best time for me because some of these guys are banged up. And by the way, now that I'm on this tangent, don't tweet me about insert name being glass. I get that every time somebody gets hurt. Oh, he's glass. He's made of glass. I'm take one hit these guys take. Avonte Maddox is, but oh, he's made of glass. He's one of the most physical players. That's part of his problem.
Right.
He's 5'9", 180 pounds, and he plays like he's 220 pounds. And if Avonte Maddox hit these people who are calling him glass once, they'd go home and cry to their mother. It just drives me insane. So please don't tweet that at me. NFL players take a beating, and that's part of the reason they have this bye week. But I digress. The Eagles could use – the Eagles are banged up, and I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Now, the coaches are going to work, but Nick tends to give them a little bit of time as well because you do need to decompress. And we'll see how they come out of it. Obviously, Kansas City – do they have a bye week this week? Kansas City? Because they were in Germany. I think they might have a bye week as well. I'm not positive. They do. So, oh no, they're playing the no. Yes, they have a bye week.
Right. They play.
So they have a bye week as well, and we know Andy Reid coming off the bye week. Oof. So, yeah,
that's a bit of a problem. And again, let me state this because I want people to understand. I'm not complaining about the Eagle players. I'm not complaining about the Eagle coaching staff. This is the same thing as I'm not complaining about the refs when they're calling penalties the way the league has set up penalties. You think your problem is with the ref. No, your problem is the rules. It may sound like I've got a problem with either the Eagle players or the Eagles coaching staff. I have a problem with neither one. They can't do anything about it. The rules are the rules. You can't practice. You can't get extra time in. It's collectively bargained out of the conversation. So I'm not coming down on anybody as far as the Eagles go. I'm just looking at an 8-1 record and saying, you know, but there are still a couple things they could be better at. But it's not on them to fix them this week. You would, bye week. Give them that much more time to work on it. No, it doesn't. Because those are the rules. They're not allowed to go in and put in the extra time to get things done. So I'm not calling, hey, somebody just took a shot at me on the street. Oh, Jody's always negative. I'm not negative about anything here. This is the rules. I'm negative about the NFL. I'm negative, let me once again say, the greedy owners who never, ever in a collective bargaining agreement give the players anything as far as extra money goes. Well, we'll just come up with something else we can give them to appease them so we can keep every last dime. No, I'm not mad at the Eagles. I'm mad at the owners of the NFL that they don't give themselves a chance to improve their product in season. And your point about the injuries is also right.
That I agree with. I mean, the product isn't, and that's partially because they don't practice as much. I mean, it's common sense. If you don't practice as much, practice makes perfect, is the old saying. I mean, it's common sense. The more you practice something, the better you're going to get at it. And they've never practiced less in the NFL. Now, some of that's good, some of it's bad. They did take it probably too far in the old days where, you know, guys didn't have downtime. They're running them ragged and all that kind of thing. So
you were there in Minnesota for one of the more tragic days in the history of the National Football League, right?
I mean, people think it's. I'm old enough, unfortunately, to remember the before times. And when I tell you the old school mentality, read about Bear Bryant some days about not keeping people hydrated. And that's what happened with Corey Stringer.
Yep.
Corey Stringer was the literal demarcation line And I tell people this story all the time, and they don't believe me. Younger people, 100% true. We as media people could not bring water onto the practice field before Corey Stringer. You know, Corey was specifically not drinking water because he was overweight. Corey was a very good player, tremendous player, but he was a little overweight even for an offensive lineman. And the Vikings would always get on him about his weight, and he had that old school football mentality of guys being tough. And I know Mike Tice, who's a phenomenal guy and a great offensive line coach and an underrated head coach when he got the opportunity. But he was really hard on him, and I know it affects him to this day. And, you know, trying to, you know, say, you know, you got to lose weight, and he's trying to stay away from water to prove he was tough. It was just a different time, and it ends up the way it ends up. And so as tragic as that was, it created so many changes, literal hydration periods. And that part of it was something good out of something very, very bad. But yeah, I don't think people understand that it was brutal. 2-a-days. It was brutal. And that part, getting away from that is a good thing.
And the pendulum needed to swing. My only point is it swung so drastically and so quickly, it might have overswung as far as getting a balance as to be able to put your best product on the field and give the players enough time to practice. A perfect example with the Eagles right now. The fact that Eli Ricks and Sidney Brown are playing slot corner. Neither one of them is a slot corner because they didn't play slot corner in their career before. And the time to cross-train them in practice just isn't there. You don't have the chance. You got to get your regular guy. Devontae Maddox got to get some reps in preseason. Get go, oh, my God, I think we need to cross-train Eli Ricks at the slot corner because we're going to have 4 injuries lead up to it. We're going to be playing him more than anybody else in the slot against CeeDee Lamb. Who the hell could have known that was going to happen? No one. But even if they did, if they had a crystal ball and told them that was going to happen, they couldn't do anything about it because they don't have enough practice time. All right. Off on a tangent. Sorry about that. But Chris Franklin, our buddy from NJ.com, is going to join us next on a Victory Monday here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Since 1977, it's always been about you, the community, at Rafferty Subaru. And through the Subaru Love Promise, We prove we care by supporting charities like So Good Now.
So Good Now helps kids in under-resourced areas by connecting them with student athletes to serve as mentors. We remove barriers so athletes can help youth in the corners of our communities where light and love are needed most.
When you choose Rafferty Subaru, you help organizations like So Good Now.
It's all about you at Rafferty Subaru.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News.
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
Birds 365 on a victory Monday after a win over the Dallas Cowboys 28-23 at Lincoln Financial Field. And Chris Franklin was there. You were there. You sat next to McMullen. You saw him yesterday. He was actually there in the press box, right? Because he told me he was hanging out with Jeff Carr. I said, that means he's not hanging out
By the
with Chris
way,
Franklin?
I have never had a more difficult time getting to Lincoln Financial Field, Chris. Have you ever?
What the hell was yesterday?
Yeah.
See, the funny thing was I took the back way coming from the south too, so I got in there decently. There's everybody else like up north. It's crazy. I felt bad because I saw it everywhere. It was nuts. It really was.
Down 11th
Well, wait a
Street.
minute.
I
Did
don't
we
know
have a
something
weekend just a couple weekends ago where there were 3 events going on, and
I have
including a
never
soccer
had-
game at Lincoln Financial?
I don't know why. I don't know what was going on. I have never had a. They shut down 11th Street on me. I'm like, I had to go around the building. I had to go the back way. I'm saying, it was backed up as I got through the Walt Whitman, Chris. It was completely backed up. So I'm like, I'm not going to wait in this to go to Broad Street and go the back way. But by the way, I shouldn't be saying this. So I get off at Front Street and I'm like, all right, I'm making decent time. It's a little bit of traffic. And then as I hit Patterson, just bang, stop, nothing. Took me an hour to get from Patterson down by Front Street to the parking lot. It was unbelievable. It was
It felt really lonely in that press box for a while, like an hour and a half before. It's like, where is everybody? Yo.
It was
crazy.
And I still don't know why. Anyway, but no one cares. But I had.
All right. So eventually everybody got into the stadium, and Eagles got off to a good start and had a lead. And then the fourth quarter kicked in, and the Eagles had to win this one by the hair on their chinny chin. Should we be more excited that Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham came up with huge sacks late? Should we be mocking the Cowboy quarterback? Johnny got on his case pretty good earlier. Dak might have thrown for 300 and change yards, but he came up real small in the biggest spot at the end of the game. Or should we be questioning the Eagles in that, man, how could they not put that game away? All they needed was a couple first downs, and it never even comes to what it came to at the end of the game. I'm sure it's a combination of all, but which jumps out at you most, Chris Franklin?
I think it was salting the game away. I think that was the biggest thing that leaps out to me, in the fact that you basically had them dead to rights, and you could have just walked away. It would be a lot easier, a lot smoother. You could just walk down to here, while here, everybody's feeling, it was a great feeling. I mean, beat the Cowboys is a good feeling, around this area, but you could have an even better feeling. But now you start to think it's going to be in the back of your mind now for the rest of the season, and even into the playoffs. Now that you've seen this, you don't know. You hope it's a learning experience for them to say, hey, you know what? Maybe we have a different play call coming in on offense, so that way we don't put the defense there. Maybe you don't. Maybe you try a different play call on that third down when it's a fumble, or stuff like that. So I think that goes, and maybe you play a different defense, so that way they'll pass interference call against it. So I think that's the main concern, especially with this stretch of games coming up. It's going to be a big thing to watch coming up.
I'm going to set the panic meter. One is you're very calm and collected. Jalen Hurts level of straight line, flat line. 10, you're panic stricken. Eagles pass coverage. Where are you? 1 to 10.
I'm going to say I'll say 6. And the reason why I'm saying a 6 is I think I look at the reinforcements that are on the way. You got 2 veterans that are going to be coming back, and Bradley Roby and Eli Ricks, that I think can mesh into what's going on right now. Because right now, when you have
No, you
Eli,
must mean somebody other than Eli Ricks because he's not a veteran.
I'm sorry, Roby and Justin Evans. I think those guys are coming back. Yeah, because Eli.
I forgot. Is Justin Evans still on the team?
Oh
Yeah, he was working. They were working out.
Him.
Yeah, they were working. We saw him working out on the side this week, so they're getting close. And Bradley Roby himself said last night that he's coming back. He's ready to pick.
The slot corner too. Why in doubt?
Justin Evans has played slot.
Yeah, he has. Yeah,
in New Orleans, he played slot, so he can play slot as well. Yeah, he's their best coverage safety. I don't know Kevin Byard. I haven't seen him enough, but he certainly was a better coverage. He was one of the best coverage players in the NFL. I don't know how much he has left. Hasn't been tremendous, but it's difficult to come in. Justin Evans had been their best coverage safety, and now you have, I've been talking Roby. Look, I know, here's what Roby knows how to play, so it's got to be better. He knows how to play the position. Sidney Brown, Eli Ricks, tip of the cap to those guys, but they're playing out of position. They don't know how to play the position, and when you get Cooper Kupp or CeeDee Lamb, ooh, you can get ugly at times.
It's no fault of their own. To me, it's like almost like you place them in the middle. It's a tough situation for them to go at to adjust on the fly, especially as rookies. And they're still not only just learning the game, they have to learn a whole new position, something that because they're more outside guys. So I think that it's a really, really tough thing for them. And to me, Roby is the closest thing they got going to Avonte Maddox that when it comes to the style of play and playing in that phone booth, helping out and run support and occasionally blitzing off the edge too. I think that they really need that coming back. And if he stays healthy, I think that rectifies some of the stuff. It's still not one of the best pass coverages right now in the league, even if you add him back on there. But at least it gives him a better shot, especially in that within that 10-yard range that the Eagles seem to be getting killed at the last couple of weeks.
All right. No, you're going to beg off till the all 22, and certainly we cut you slack, both of you two guys. But the 2 Eagle safeties which played, did they play 100% of the snaps yesterday? Both safeties played the entire game?
Let me see. I think
Byard played every single snap.
Byard and Cunningham, I think, played every snap, I think. And then I think maybe it was 1 or 2, something like that. That was the breakdowns.
Damn close to Blankenship playing every single snap as well. So both safeties played. And the 3 linebackers who played yesterday, Cunningham played every snap, and they split between Morrow and Nakobe Dean.
Zach played well too, by the way. I thought
he did, but they made
Reed and Byard played the entire game.
Yeah. That's what I thought. They made Jake Ferguson look like Jay Novacek yesterday. He was open, making plays, turning the ball upfield.
Nice ball, by the way.
Someone in the middle of the field defensively did not do a good job on Jake. Second year, came out of nowhere. Ferguson for almost 100 yards and a touchdown yesterday. When the film breakdown comes in, who do you think is going to be held most liable?
I think Sean Desai, because I think a lot of the ways that the Cowboys are
I'm not asking you about Desai. I'm asking you about the players. Come on, you got to give me a player's name. You want to take a shot at Desai, feel free. But you got to give me a player's name on top of it, too. One of those guys. So you got to give me either one of the 2 safeties or one of the 3 linebackers. Somebody got eaten up by Jake Ferguson more than anybody else. Who was it?
I think Reed was the one that usually shifted down, and sometimes I saw Byard going out, if I remember correctly. It could be changed, but if I remember correctly, Reed seemed to be going down a lot into the box, and then Byard would go into that single high look sometimes. So I look at him when it comes to that. But I think the Cowboys did a really good job using that motion to shift everything to get the matchup they wanted. They really did, whether it was Ricks in the middle, whether it was the tight end Ferguson as well too. They did a good job shifting things around to get those favorable matchups. And when they did, they were hitting it at a very high clip, except for when they counted up toward the red zone.
Yeah, I don't think I thought Reed played pretty well, but I have to watch, as Jody said, I have to rewatch the game. I think Byard was better in week 2, but still not great. And I think Nakobe and Nick Morrow were not good in coverage. And N'Kobe's hurt again. We'll see how that shakes out. But
speaking of N'Kobe, that was interesting to see Morrow getting snaps a lot earlier too. That was really, really surprising seeing him on the sideline in some high leverage spots early. It was like, okay, you got questions now. You thought he would be the three down guy, and now
Zach Cunningham's the best linebacker on this team.
He's played the best, and it's not close.
Is that a good thing, Chris Franklin?
I don't think so, because you need your middle linebacker, especially as much as they rely on them in that middle of the field to drop back straight sometimes. It's very concerning. I mean, don't get me wrong, having Zach there that helps out. Just imagine if he wasn't there, what they could be going through right now. I think as a weak side guy, I like him, like in that spot, but you got some questions going at the middle now, especially with Dean being out.
And Reed Blankenship might be my favorite player on the whole team. Yeah, that's how much I enjoy rooting for Reed Blankenship. But 2 weeks in a row, he actually has been able to hide, I think, poorly played games by one big play. Last week, Washington interception. Yesterday, tackle at the 6-inch line on Skumac. And they're both great plays. You give him a ton of credit for that. But you got to evaluate the whole game, and
I agree with you.
And maybe
right. I did not think he played well in Washington, even with the interception. I was like, right after that game on the post game show, I was like, Reed did not play well. I didn't get that feeling this time, and maybe I'm wrong, and I got to relook it, relitigate it, so to speak. But I don't think he had a poor game. I thought he had a poor game in Washington. But
worse last week in Washington, but I think he got beat a couple of times yesterday.
I don't think he's a great coverage safety. I will say that, Chris. Where are you with Reed Blankenship?
I think he's more of he's more of a, you hope he's in the back too, and he just plays center field. I think that's where he plays his strength in that, and then let him use that speed to try to fly toward the ball afterwards. If he has to roll down towards a slot or something like that, one-on-one against the wide receiver, I'll hold my breath at times. But I think, he's more of a, hey, sit back, watch the whole field, let everything develop in front of you, and then if you see something going, you have a chance to undercut it. I think that's what he did last year. That he did so well when he started jumping routes as well too. So, man to man, I got some questions when it comes to that.
All right, Chris Franklin, I need you to jump inside the head of Nick Sirianni, which is a winning place. Sometimes can be a goofy place. And I can't quite understand the last couple of weeks of the way that he's looked at and talked about Kenneth Gainwell. He gets all out of sorts because people are asking questions about Gainwell and not being able to hold the ball inside the 10-yard line. And he goes tremendously to his defense and says, if I pull the guy every time he made a mistake, Jalen Hurts makes mistakes, A.J. Brown makes mistakes. Well, but they're Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. Kenneth Gainwell is not A.J. Hurts or Jalen Hurts or A.J. Brown. And then he plays him, and he gets the touchdown run early. Nice cut, nice blocking. The hole was there, but he leapfrogs over the guy into the end zone, makes a big play, and then he never gets the ball again. He's got 3 carries for the entire game. After making a big play, after the coach goes to great lengths to take his back, and then he never goes to him again. What was the line of thinking yesterday by Nick Sirianni? Is that just look to the offensive coordinator and say they never called him and never got him back in there? In a day where Swift puts the ball on the ground twice, that was the day to get Kenny Gainwell more action. Why didn't it happen?
You just saw a variation of the question I was going to ask him later on today.
It's a Franklin McMullen combination question. That works.
I thought, especially with the way he did, to me, I think he thinks of him like this is his version of Nyheim Hines, because you saw how much he revered him back then. I look at that, and I was shocked at the way how much little uses they had. I thought they would use it more, especially sticking with the ground, because Swift was getting hit left and right, and I thought they'd at least give him a breather so you can use Swift later on as a closer to basically run that game out, clock out. I don't know. Sometimes I don't know what's going on with that rotation. A lot of times you think that one guy's will get, like previous week, Gainwell's getting a lot more runs than Swift was. Like, why didn't that happen? Why wasn't he getting more touches? it's hard to put a finger on how they use these guys each and every week. And I think especially against an athletic Cowboy team, I think that was the game where you use Gainwell a little bit more, especially and even as an outlet. I thought there would have been more options to throw him in the swing passes and get him involved, and that way he could to basically move that offense along as well too when they were getting in ruts. So I don't know what's going on inside Nick's head with that one, but it's a lot of questions going on. I'm not sure of that the running back usage, especially the last 3-4 weeks.
Now, Chris, I'm pretty locked in on this. This team does not run the football well when Jalen Hurts is not involved. In other words, when that +1 is not threatening the opposition defense, I don't think you can just turn around and hand the ball to DeAndre Swift or Kenny Gainwell or Boston Scott or Rashad Penny and run the football effectively. And that kind of again played out yesterday. Should that surprise people? I mean, follow the money. They don't pay running backs. They don't pay these guys. So is it any surprise that they're not the best players on the team? AJ's good. Devontae's good. Dallas is good. Guess what? AJ and Dallas have been paid. Devontae will get paid. They're the big time players. They say, running back, and you get what you pay for.
It's a plug and play position now. It really is, and it's one of those things where you're like, if I'm a running back, I'm looking at becoming a receiver. If I'm developing in college, I'm like, screw this. I'm gonna be a wide receiver.
If you got a middle guard and he's a tremendous athlete, you tell him, forget that backfield thing. Get out there and catch some passes. That's got to be trending in high school football all around the country right now.
Oh, hell yeah. And I think in this offense as well, too, I also think some of these defenses now, since they know Hurts is dealing with that bone bruise in his leg, they're just like, so many times we hear about the RPR, or run options. They're like, well, we know this one option at the end is probably not going to happen. Or if he does, he may get 6 yards, he's going to slide. So we can focus more assets in the middle and say, we're going to clog up in the middle of the field and say, like, okay, try to beat us another way. You're going to beat us through the air. So I think that's the biggest factor in why the effectiveness of the run game is not. You can say they lost on the offense, that right guard spot, but you saw Stevens in there is all right too. I think it's more the threat of Jalen Hurts' injury is taking away the threat of the run and is not opening up as many running lanes as it used to.
Chris, go ahead, Jody.
Go ahead, John.
When Jalen Carter jumped off sides yesterday with 27 seconds left, it became 1st and 5 at the Eagles' 6-yard line. And I don't know how you were feeling, but I was like, oh, the Eagles are going to blow this game. This is going to be an interesting post-game show. It's going to be interesting with Chris Franklin tomorrow morning. And bang, it goes false start. Dak Prescott taking a sack for 11 yards, incompletion, penalty for delay of game. And then he throws short of the end zone in desperation mode. They went from the 6 to the 11 to the 22 to the 27. Did Dak Prescott bail out the Eagles, or did the Eagles create their own good fortune?
Oh, he completely bailed them out. That any other if that's Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes,
oh yeah,
any of the other top 5-6 quarterback, the Eagles are starting to play contingency.
Quarterback, that's awful.
It goes back to the whole Dak and clutch situations argument, and that was on full display. How do you not, like, especially in that moment, not only are you supposed to hype, you should know every single situation. You should be telling the guys, be cognizant, hey, maybe I should look at the play clock a little bit more. You can't make all these extra adjustments and audibles at the last second. You just got to roll with it half the time. And he just froze up in anything. It wasn't as bad situational football in that time for Dak. And you keep way down there, keep waiting to say, oh, he's elite or he's great and everything. Moments like this keep going against the argument that he's among those top 5, top 6 quarterbacks in the league.
All right, Chris Franklin, need your read on the Eagles' schedule. Over the next 5 weeks, they will have showdowns with San Francisco 49ers, who've lost 3 in a row, but coming off a bye. And, of course, we're in the NFC Championship game with the Eagles. The rematch with Dallas in Dallas. Know how close yesterday's game was. Got to take it on the road. Having to travel out to Seattle and take on the Seahawks, who just got there. But
Baltimore's good. Baltimore's
Holy
good,
mackerel.
man.
I did not see that one coming. But they're all conference games. How big is the next game the Eagles play against the team that they lost to in the Super Bowl? I know it's not in conference, so it doesn't have as big effect on the standings and the tiebreakers and everything else, but it's the Chiefs, and we know how close the Eagles were to beating the Chiefs. How much does the coaching staff, I bemoaned the fact that the Eagles won't be able to take advantage of a bye week with extra practice time because they collectively bargain that away. But it doesn't mean the coaches can't be in there putting in hours and hours and hours of prep time. How much is put on this Kansas City game as compared to other games that they've got coming up in the next month that may be more important because of the teams that they're playing in the conference in which they play?
I think it's a lot of importance for the fact that they want to keep the ball rolling from what the momentum that they currently have right now. I mean, the best thing that they have the worst thing that happened right now for this team, well, it could be a blessing and a curse in the same way with that bye week, because you come off a game like that where it's emotional, where you will beat your division rival. Now you're 2.5 games up on basically. Now you got to stop that and go, okay, restart all over again. And I think you need to start that win, because I'm looking at the schedule. I think that Cowboys game and that Seattle game could be a place where you're looking at back-to-back losses, and you don't really want to start losing 3 or 4, what have you, on that one too. So I think they're going to put a lot of importance in getting out to a quick start there. I think they win the Bills game, and I think they win the 49ers game. I think that stretch of having to go to Dallas, who's going to be pissed off already they lost, who they have issues with in Dallas already, and then you have to go back home and then fly back out to Seattle, a place that you always have issues with. I think that's going to make an issue.
It looks difficult on paper, but I do think the Bills aren't as good as we all thought they were. I think they're having some issues. As Jody mentioned, San Francisco has lost 3 straight. Now we'll see if Trent Williams is back. We'll see if Deebo Samuel can get back. That makes a big difference. The Cowboys, big spot. Now the Eagles typically have trouble down in Dallas. Good spread though. We'll have fun.
And the post game beer,
maybe an adult beverage after the game. That's always fun. It's always difficult flying out to Seattle, 12th man and all. So it's a difficult stretch. But man, this team. What are we at? 27 consecutive weeks, best record in the NFL, or tied for the best record in the NFL. They're better than all those teams. Well, they're not going to lose 3 or 4. Is that too optimistic?
Nah, I don't think so. I really don't. I think it's 2 of those 4.
3 or 5. If you put in the Kansas City mix, is 3
all
or 5?
Right, 3. It's 3 or 5.
3 or 5.
I think they stay above 500.
Going into this year, I think that's what I had.
Just a quick reminder: Giants, Cardinals, Giants to finish things out.
That's
it's kind of easy there at the back end, which is a nice little
buffer
in after that very difficult run in the middle of the season.
Yeah, it is. I think that this going into the season, I still believe that I think that's where they lose the 3 or 5. I think I had them with like 4 losses. I think I had like 4 losses going into it. And I think 3 of them were during this time too. So yeah, if they can weather the storm, if they can weather the storm and come away 2 and 3, which is crazy to talk about. Like, oh yeah, if they're 2 and 3, they're good. Like, yeah, they pretty much are. I think, and with the way things are shaping out,
because worry about Detroit only for the reason of they have an easy schedule. And they're not a great team, but they're a good team, and they're going to keep winning games because they get to play the Chicagos of the world, Minnesota with Josh Dobbs. Credit to Josh Dobbs for what he did, but come on, it's Josh Dobbs. Green Bay this year. They're going to win a lot of games.
Big Packer win yesterday against Brett Rippon.
Brett Rippon. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Didn't like his dad, that's for sure.
Credit to them as well for beating Brett Rippon. Yeah, that's the only team I kind of worry about and say they could be sneaky just because the schedule for them is so easy.
See, I look at when I look at when the Lions play the Vikings in Minnesota, I think that's a spot where it can be trouble for them, just for how loud the crowd is, that stadium as well too, and the previous issues going in there. I think that's a loss, and then there could be another one somewhere along the line. So, they have a cake schedule. I mean, it's definitely advantageous, a lot better than what the Eagles have, but I think there's going to be at least a couple more within that span, and it's going to come down to tiebreakers, it looks like.
All right, Chris Franklin, last question for me. The Philadelphia Eagles continue to win close games. If I give you 3 choices, tell me what order you would put this in. The Eagles win close games because of skill, toughness, or the clutch gene. If you had to put those 3 things in order, what order would you put them to attribute the Eagles' tremendous ability to win close games?
I think toughness is actually, I'll go clutch, because it's that X factor you need. You don't, and not everybody's built more with it, because skills definitely last, because I mean, there's a lot of skill around this league, and we see guys who are talented just seem to get that little lump in their throats that come up when it comes to those close times. So I probably go skill, the clutch gene first, toughness second, and then skill, because I mean, you can be tough, you can be strong, you can knuckle down when it comes to those times, like within 2 minutes when you need to get 3 points or when you need to stop a defense from getting 3 points. But unless you have that it factor where you can remain calm, where you can just all of a sudden your heart slows down and you start looking, you can feel like, you know what, everything's not moving so fast that the field's just, you're in your element when it's really, really tough. I think that you can't acquire that. It's something that you already have. And the fact that they have Jalen Hurts in that situation a lot of times, you have some of these other guys, the veterans that have played with this back, and even going back to their college days and been through here as well too. I think that goes a long way to them being in that situation. So yeah, definitely clutch is one.
All right, Chris Franklin's got the clutch gene for us, Jody McDonald.
Yes, he does.
Franklin News, NJ.com. Real quick, Dallas Goedert, how's it affected? He's going to be out for a while. I think he's at least hitting the IR. I find it very hard. 4 to 6 weeks, broken forearm. That seems optimistic. We saw it last year for 5 games. Jack Stoll stepping up.
I think you hate to say an injury, and I don't mean to say an injury is a good thing, but I think that also helps out that roster crunch of transactions that they're going to have coming up too. So
that's a good point.
That's going to help on that.
Lining. That's clutch, Chris.
Albert O. That's the one. I think this is where you start to see his receiving ability comes into play a little bit as well too. So I think that's a guy who's worth watching when it comes to that too. In conjunction with Stoll, but I think I'll say Albert O, because I don't want to butcher his name, but Albert O is going to be the one I'm going to be watching at that time.
And Chris Franklin, feel free to use the question on Kenny Gainwell when you.
Hey, call a new one now.
We're boys. We're sharing opinions, information, and thoughts. Feel free to go ahead and put the coach on the spot with that one coming up this afternoon. Thanks for jumping in with us this morning.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Have a good one now.
Chris Franklin. NJ.com here with us on Birds 365. All right, quickie timeout. Come back. We got to put a bow on this show on a Victory Monday here on Birds 365.
If you own a company and you're not producing a podcast, you're missing out. The public consumes messaging when they're ready. Join the professional podcast network of companies and let JAKIB Media Partners put you in the podcast arena. Come to our professional studio or we'll come to your place of business and professionally produce your company podcast. Call JAKIB Media right now at 267-261-3428. 267-261-3428.
My name is Dr. Bruce Grosinger, and I'm the medical director of Philadelphia PRP and Stem Cell Institute. I'm reaching out to those who suffer from spine and joint pain. We use treatment methods that require no surgery, no scalpel, no drugs.
Running, walking, or whatever your desires are, Dr. Grosinger is where you need to come.
You can benefit from the same PRP and stem cell treatment as Wilbert Montgomery. Call us now at 610-222-5675.
We're here to show you a better way to spend your state income taxes and get the money to where it's needed to most to the thousands of qualified kids.
What we like about Blocks is they really know where the need is.
This program ensures that their dollars come 100% into these kids for their tuition assistance.
If you are able, Blocks makes the EITC piece go very quickly and very smoothly.
Turn your PA state tax liability into need-based scholarships and receive a 90% tax credit.
Win and save this baseball season from Colony Pools and Power Washing, a local company serving Delaware, Delco, and Chester County since 1970. Are you tired of looking at your green house? Is your roof, siding, deck stained green from algae and mold? Let the experts pressure wash your home and take the pressure off of you. Win with Colony Pools and Power Washing. Call them now at 302-762-2250. That's 302-762-2250.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Mac guys, wrapping up a Victory Monday after the Dallas Cowboys. No better victory than that here on Birds 365. All right, Johnny Mac, here's a note we're going to finish on. I need you to sit in judgment of me. Are you willing to do that?
Sure. I'd love to judge people, Joe.
Feel free. I'm giving you permission to judge me ahead of time because a couple of guys and my good buddy Dominique Dabney on our stream, who's still
Jaquaski Tart, number one.
The president of the Jaquaski Tart fan club. Yes, and as a matter of fact, he may have been watching the game yesterday with Jaquaski Tart because I'm not sure what Jaquaski's up to, but I know he's not playing in the National Football League, despite the fact that according to Dabney, he was the best Eagles safety last year. And he hates the fact that I point that out, you point that out. So again, I'm Mr. Negative Nelly. All I'm looking at is what the Eagles did wrong. Here's my thought I'm getting ahead of the curve on this one, 14 days ahead of the curve. Here's what I want to see next Monday night against the Kansas City Chiefs. I want the Philadelphia Eagles trailing by 2 scores in the second half. Because as their 8-1 record shows, they know how to win games. They find ways to win games. They're good enough to win games. You can go back to last year too, John. One thing this team hasn't done a lot of because it just hasn't popped up, they've been good enough to defer it. They haven't had a great come-from-behind victory. They haven't been trailing late in the second half. I'll even give you the fourth quarter. Doesn't have to be, you got to drive down the field, down 6 with 1 minute to go. I won't make it that finite. Just down 2 scores in the second half, mid-third quarter, something like that. They haven't done it yet. I'm not saying they can't. I'm just saying they haven't done it. I'd like to see them be tested in that way. Now, is that me being Mr. Eagle hater, like my guy Dominic will accuse me of, or is that me making a legit point that, you can go back to last year. The Houston game, they were trailing, and that was in the first half, not in the second half. The Jacksonville game, same thing, they were trailing, but that was not. When was the last time the Eagles came from behind from a significant deficit in the second half to win a game?
Not in the second half. Their largest deficit this year was 11 in Washington last week.
First half.
Early. Early in the game. So they've been. I don't think you're a hater, but I don't think it's an issue. I don't think you want to get behind.
Is it not an issue?
No, because I think you'd rather be dominant and you'd rather play from an advantage for the majority of the time. Plus, the fans are going to hate the run pass ratio if they're down by 2 scores in the second half because they're going to be throwing the ball all over the place. So
I'm gonna put that aside and say, I don't care what the fans think.
I would advocate playing from the lead at all times for every team if you can. And Jalen Hurts, the Eagles lost the Super Bowl, but when they got behind, he kind of proved he went right down the field. I mean, right down the field, and kept them in the game. I don't have that concern about the Eagles, but I don't think you're a hater. A lot of people say, they got got to be tested, blah blah blah. I like the guy who's in the race that wins it from start to finish. If you're that good,
right?
I don't think that's
great. But I'm just saying that the facts are the facts. This year, going back into last year, the Eagles have not been down by more than a touchdown in the second half of a game. So they haven't.
Because they're good,
right? And that's a big part of it. Yeah. But that could crop up in a game sometime over the next month when the schedule gets real tough, when they're playing better teams into the playoffs, when they'll be matching up against whoever, and or another Super Bowl trip. If you haven't faced it, you don't know what you're going to do against it. And I'd like to see the Eagles face, and I think they're certainly capable with Jalen Hurts at quarterback and the offensive weapons they have of being able to come back from down 8 points in the third quarter and find a way to win a game. I'm not saying, because they've never done it, they can't do it. No, I just want to see it ahead of time. I'd rather see it ahead of time than get into an NFC championship.
I wouldn't.
They never did this.
Yeah, Nick's gotten this question before, and he's like, I don't want to get behind on purpose. So, you want to play to win the game at all times. Now, if you're playing poorly like they were early in Washington, I don't worry about it because the quarterback is the quarterback's proven time and time again. He's not going to be unsettled in the moment like I think Dak Prescott was.
Right. He won't Dak up. We'll leave it at that. All right, brother. You and me again tomorrow. You good to go?
Let's do it.
We will be back here on Birds 365 in 2 and 2. And don't forget Bill Colorulo coming up with the Philly Sports Power Hour next here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.